Hi people, I'm happy you're watching this because today I'm very excited to be in Brighton to have a look at the first Earthship built in the UK. So Earthship is like, what is it? Earthship is an Earthship, if you don't know, is a sustainable eco house originally invented by Michael Reynolds in the States. I think now is over 50 years ago because he started building these Earthships in New Mexico in 1970s, and in Europe and the UK they didn't really grow that much. It's probably because of the problem of regulations. Like here is more difficult to get permit to use water multiple times as the Earthship does. It's difficult to use recycled stuff to build your house. And in fact, one of the most important things, or one of the most interesting things of an Earthship is that he uses tires, like old tires, big tires, usually from lorries, trucks, whatever. And they use these tires all around it to make like a wall. So the walls are made by tires and by other recycling elements as bottles or cans. The great thing about an Earthship is that it's completely off-grid, so it has its own supply for water and energy. It's got solar panel, wind power sometimes, and it just collects all the water from the rain. It's incredible how the water is being reused multiple times. It goes from the draining system to different filters and then we use in the kitchen, to water plants, for your toilets, for your shower. And also it's amazing how you can store it. Just it comes from the big windows in the front and it's spread all the way inside the house. So I'm super grateful that I'm doing this tour with a guide and I'm allowed to film as well. So you're gonna have some great contents here. Enjoy!
Okay. So it's about a 15-minute walk up to the Earthship.
Okay. Wow.
There's holes on here.
Didn't turn the heating system off and caught it bad.
It's amazing this path going somewhere really you feel.
Yeah. I love this one. It's the Wellbeing Garden that's run by Brighton and Hove Food Project, and it's just along here I ran an outdoor playgroup for 6 years. This little path is quite famous from a visit from Queen Victoria once upon a time.
That's good.
Yeah, this area is.
That's beyond
So just over there we've got the Centre for Ecotherapy. They do lots of kind of work with, the only word that I can think of to describe what they do is sort of more sort of rehabilitation work back into the community with people. And we've got a dyer's garden over there, and Second Nature have got a plot and a little bug hotel over there. So there's lots of little groups using the Wellbeing Garden for well-being stuff, and we are now about to enter Stammer Organics, which is all certified organic land. Okay?
Wow.
Oh, isn't it lovely?
It's beautiful, wow. Wow, it's beautiful.
So, would anybody like to come and open this door that hasn't sort of done yet? Here we go. So this is called a truth window, so we can see what makes up the walls of the Earthship. Okay, so The Earthship idea came from a guy called Mike Reynolds, who's American, in around 1970, and I find it's quite interesting because that's the year I was born. And in 1970 there were lots of power cuts. We were starting to realise the impact of our kind of wasteful culture and landfill, and he was studying architecture, and he desperately wanted to come up with a design of building that wasn't just a place to park our bodies, but we could thrive in, as well as not draining resources, and to be self-sufficient basically, so that you could live somewhere and not have to work all your life to pay your bills, and go lightly on the earth's resources. But so I mean, I can't believe that I'm 50. I was 51 yesterday, and we're still struggling to make a leap, basically, some massive developmental leap as a species. I feel like we're hopefully on the cusp. More and more people are tuning in. So he originally built things out of aluminium cans, and then I think he started to see the amount of tyres that were being wasted. And the problem with tyres, when they go into landfill, if a tyre is exposed to air, it breaks down and is really, really toxic. But if it's buried in earth, and there is some concrete in this building, which if they did it again they wouldn't, but Mike Reynolds was using some concrete at the time. So with concrete, for every ton of concrete you produce a ton of CO2, so it's not a good building material. But this was a big learning curve for everybody involved, and remains a learning curve, I think. And the good thing about the tyres is that they're round, solid, you can ram them with earth, so they make a good thick wall, which is really good for thermal insulation and keeping heat in the building. And it saves it all going to landfill. So all these back walls are made, I think there's 1,000 tyres in this building.
Wow, 1,000.
Made these.
Wow.
They're rammed with earth that was dug out of the hill. So Earthships are very much about using indigenous materials. Anyone know what indigenous means?
Local.
So local materials. So that makes it more sustainable because you're not travelling materials for miles around. So that's our truth window. And while we're outside, we should go up onto the roof. So as you can see, the roof is really, really different to your standard house, because it's made to collect water rather than waste the millions of gallons of water we're losing down our drains. Every time I stand up here, I just think how awful that is, that all that rainwater is going down our drains. In an average house, we could be using it to flush our toilets, bare minimum. No waste here. So what happens? The rain is collected in a gutter, and it comes through this gravel. This is the first filtration part of the water. This is the first part of the water filtration system. This little bit of gravel here. And it comes through there and into this. It uses a centrifugal kind of gravity, so it spins round really fast, and more stuff that you don't want in your drinking water is caught on the outside as the water goes down, and then it's stored in these 4 massive tanks. Now the tank's underground, so again they're underground, which means they're not going to perish, they're not being beaten up by the sun's rays, so they last well in there, and it also keeps the water at a decent temperature so it's not going to become contaminated. apparently about 20 people can fit in one of those tanks.
Wow.
So obviously like Mike Reynolds was living in America. His first Earthships were in Taos, New Mexico. Extremely cold in the winter, extremely cold in the summer. And so you need to make sure that you can store enough water for dry periods. So this becomes quite a big consideration on space as well. So the roof is a massive, massive part of the Earthship. So we've got 2 types of solar panels. The darker ones, definitely that end thing. So they put these solar panels on, the main ones on the roof, but they're not very efficient on your average English day where it's a bit grey. So they needed something better. So the panel, definitely the panel at the end, was added to catch as much sun rays on a grey British day. And then there's all the way down the back here are the battery banks. And there's lots of issues around battery and lithium, and battery banks have to be really well looked after. It's a little bit out of my field of knowledge, looking after battery banks. You know, electric cars, and they're not necessarily the answer. We still want to be, the big thing is about bringing down our use. So the big thing about the Earthship is about being as well insulated and as efficient as possible, so we don't leak all that heat. And just at the very, very end are some solar thermal panels, which is what heats the water. It can heat it to about 35 degrees, which is kind of hands hot and good enough for a bath. So that's something I'm considering for the roof of my house instead of a boiler maybe. And then also we've got these funny little dome windows that are known as sun tunnels, which is a good way of getting light through into the back of the building because there is no windows. All the windows are facing that way. Does anyone know what direction that would be? South, yeah, to make the most of the sun's rays.
Is it on the grid here? Can it supply back to the grid? Is it off grid?
This is off grid.
So it can't supply back to the grid?
Yeah. Oh, the other thing to point out is, so we have got a wind turbine. It's a very, very old wind turbine. What's the problem here for that wind turbine? Any guesses? Amount of trees, yeah. So the trees have grown up an awful lot. This was built in 2006, so it's 15 years old now. That was the hottest July on record when this was finally built. And the wind turbine went in, but it's just not the right place. But wind turbine technology has also come on a very, very long way since that one. But it's just good to, you know, it makes you realise how important it is to consider about your setting. And, yeah. If you want to grab a seat, feel free. So if I carry on talking about water for a moment. So the water's come from the roof, through the gravel, through the spinny thing, the technical term, into the massive water storage containers. And then, in theory, when you turn a tap on, it comes, the solar panels provide the electricity to pump the water through. And can I just open up this cupboard, sorry. In here, are more water filters. Can I open this one up as well? So the other things that it goes through is charcoal. So it goes through gravel, the spinny thing, then charcoal and a UV filter, which gets the absolute minuscule particles that we don't necessarily want to be drinking. So rainwater is generally known as potable water, as in if you boil it, it's safe to drink. So it's potable water as it comes out the tap here as well. Okay, so if it was your own home, you'd probably be drinking the water through the taps. But I think we're so close. It's going to be. I'm going to come make a very nice cup of tea, and we can turn the taps on here. Because what's exciting about the whole water system of this place is once you've used your taps for washing up, cooking, drinking, obviously you would only use a biodegradable washing up liquid. So once you've finished with it in the sinks, it becomes grey water. And the grey water comes through this really technical little thing over here. It's so technical. It's a bit of nylon stocking. There. So this is very, very technical. Can I get the lid off it? Oh, here we go. There we go. Got a nylon stocking there on a pipe. So the water comes through the nylon stocking, so that will catch any of the kind of gunk from your washing up. That has to be cleaned every now and again. But it then feeds these beds. And so in the earthships that people are living in, this is where you would grow your food. Because this is more of an education centre, the plants that are growing here are actually grown to clean the air. So spider plants and things are very good at purifying the air. So there's a series of irrigation pipes that run along here that channel the grey water through these beds and these beds here. And then the grey water ends up in tanks for flushing the toilets. So grey water, so we've got a second use coming from the water with the grey water. That then flushes the toilets. Once you've used it in a toilet, the flush, it becomes black water. And it goes out there to where the apple trees are, to a massive septic tank, which will occasionally overflow, and that basically feeds the plants there, clean the black water waste and feed off that, and it's not smelly, and the plants benefit, and there's no waste for processing. There's another one in Fife. The people who designed this, there was a group of people that really were aware of the Earthship designs in America, and started to meet in a pub in Brighton and think, right, let's have a go at doing this. And I think it took them about 4 or 5 years to come up with the funding. It did cost a lot of money. Some of that cost was spent on Mike Reynolds actually coming over from America to help them build it. The rest, and I mean, most of the materials have been donated or found. Like all the stone on the floor comes from an old stone merchant, you know, and grave cutter. So they were all donated. As far as the floor goes, one of the things they didn't do in the design and building of this place was put in underfloor insulation. So if you're doing your house, put in underfloor insulation, because that would make a massive difference to how efficient this place is. But so on the wall behind us are all the tyres rammed with earth, and then between the tyres and the hill is a thermal lining that helps hold the heat. And we've also got these amazing big windows that are south facing. So the windows, there's a technology called passive house, which is about using big windows and solar design to make the most of it. These windows are designed to be at a 90-degree angle to the winter sun, to make the most of the winter sun. And then when you've got too much sun in the summer, that's higher, and it actually manages to keep this cooler. The other important thing about that entrance hallway is that in the winter, you keep these doors closed so that when people are going in and out of the building, the heat that's held in this main part of the building stays at a constant. The guy, when I first came on a tour here, the guy who was one of the people that built it said he came here on a snowy day, and the warmth from inside the building was actually melting the snow on the outside of the windows. It's that efficient. So this is designed and inspired very much by like cave dwellings, really. So caves maintain a temperature of between about 13 and 18 degrees most of the year round, which is quite a comfortable temperature. If it's a cold day, the walls are so thick that they hold the heat and they release it as it gets colder. So they're a natural heat source. For backup, I have seen it used only a couple of times on training sessions. There's a biomass boiler over here, which it's got an electric spark, and it runs on sawdust and wood chip. They're very big in France, biomass boilers, and that also heats the water. So I think everything in this place has multifunctionality at heart.
In the grid section, so just a plastic pipe, and it just passively heats the floor. So it gets pumped around from the solar panels at the top, through underneath the pipework under the floor, and it just passively heats. But you've still got your water.
So in the original Earthships, because this is like back in the north part of the building, these bits would tend to be the bedrooms, and they're cooler, darker, a little bit more tucked away. But because this is an education centre, this has become the main building. On the first tour I came on, someone had visited the original Earthships in Taos, and in fact they'd lived there for a little while, and because of the cob walls and the thick walls, you just can't hear the people in the room next to you, which, living in a 1930s house, I can hear everything my neighbours get up to, so that's quite appealing. So we've got ventilation in here for clean air, to keep the air clean, and also bring light into the back of the building. So it's all very low tech. You're welcome to try them out. So they have a cantilever. So there's not a lot that can break on them. And then, okay, so this is really new. Yes, it's a massive new water tank. I don't know much about it. It's just been installed. So I think that might be also one of the last pieces in the puzzle to getting the water system working properly.
60 degrees the water, so
So again, that is all powered through the solar panels. So has anybody got an idea how this light might work? Yeah, they're really clever. They're called sun tubes, and I've started seeing them around the place now, actually. So it's got a mirror in a tunnel going up through to the top of the roof. So no matter where the sun is, the mirror is able to catch the light and project it into this room. Without these two things, it'd be very, very dark. And so with these two things, you have less reliance on electricity. So sun tubes are a key thing. So again, really low technology. The walls are coated in earth and clay. So you get quite interesting colours and techniques, and cob, so straw and earth, and then there's more recycled resources with the bottle bricks. Sometimes there's a little bottle. So glass is quite an expensive thing to recycle. So this is a bottle brick. So it's cut with a glass cutter and cleaned with good old gaffer tape. But it's incredibly strong. So you've got a good example of a bottle brick wall in there.
It's just a regular bottle.
So it's just a regular bottle, and so it's glass on one side because it increases the light giving opportunity, rather than it being green on. But if you wanted really dark, then you could do double colours, and other Earthships people have made, amazing art using glass brick. Clay and earth on cob walls inside.
Unless you were completely detached.
Open the window.
Wow.
It's weighty, isn't it? So that was the bit we were looking at up on the roof that had the massive round weight on the end.
Just the ventilation is incredible.
Yeah.
Every time you open a window, you can feel it. Yeah, we're passing through.
Probably 3 week drafts.
Yeah.
So I think this would be the normal living space in the Earthships. And the walls here are called a trombe wall, TROMBE. But again, it wasn't designed right. So the idea is you've got the glass windows and a thick wall that create insulation and capture heat. And the idea is the heat rises and it's supposed to be released into the room. But I think, something didn't work in the design anyway, the tromble. But it's another way of creating insulation and heat. But there's something nice about round rooms, isn't there? Not square angular boxes. We're not naturally wanting to be in boxes, are we?
Ooh. That's my car, by the way. Yeah, sorry. So I just finished the tour. It was amazing. It was really cool to see it, because I've seen so many of those online, like on YouTube, but never a proper one, like a real one. I want to document this stuff because I think it's important these days to talk about an alternative living that is not just sustainable, is great. So hopefully I'll get more of these cool contents, so stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and please comment. See you next time, bye!